Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. Guys, I really don't mean to start off on the wrong foot and start off immediately with the negative energy, but I really have quite some complaining to do because honest adwa. See, it's just today is not my day. This week has not been my week. I actually wanted to tell you about some of those stuff last week, but then while I was editing, I also realized that I never actually finished my story with me getting lost in the city I've lived in for 4 years. Because midway through that story, just my wokeness took over my body and my radical left nature, aka my advocacy for human rights and what I believe is right and wrong, just took over. And I simply forgot to finish my sentence and I forgot to tell you about certain stuff, but it's okay because every day is a new opportunity. But let's first cover a few of the things that are on my agenda that I've been wanting to yap to you about because I feel like if I don't tell this to someone, I will explode. So, first of all, last week I promised to tell you why I don't have internet in my house. So, basically, on a Friday, which was last week's Friday, so 10 days ago, completely the network was gone. And the thing is, my landlords, I know I've been complaining about them for quite a few episodes right now, but like I mentioned last time, if they they don't actively make my life unnecessarily hard and unnecessarily inconvenient, I wouldn't be out here talking about them all the time. So they were supposed to schedule another router to come be installed in my house so that we can get faster internet because legitimately I cannot play a single YouTube video that takes 10 minutes long to play normally without playing it for 25 minutes because it's that slow, it lags that much, and it's just incredibly frustrating because not only do I want and access to internet for entertainment purposes, I also need it for my education purposes because come on, nowadays everything is so digital. I also have something to say about this, but it's just, yeah, I literally just cannot study if I don't have internet because I don't have access to my materials. And the thing is, the internet was cut off in the middle of my exam period, and I was only left to prepare for my statistics exam because, yes, again, I had to take another course of statistics. And we all know my love and passion for statistics. So I was already on the edge, very tense. And when my access to the World Wide Web was cut off, I just crashed out. And basically, what I had to do is I had to go to a hotel reception. I had to go to this community center building type of situation so that I can have access to internet and download my materials or study. And the thing is, I love studying in the evening. I love going home first. Let's say if it's after work, I love going home, working out, chilling for a little bit, and then studying. But because of this and that hotel reception that's available for non-guests to make use of, and that also community center building, they're quite far away from where I live. So basically after work, I had to go directly there, which meant that I would come home after I have finished studying, which was at best case scenario 10 o'clock, and that really messed up my schedule, and it was just very annoying. But I have to admit, I was quite productive because normally I am only able to study when I'm in the comfort of my own home and preferably in the comfort of my own bed. But now, because I felt rather peer pressured from the people studying around me, and I was also sitting in silent spaces, and silent spaces are those in which you cannot talk to other people, you cannot not use your headphones if you're watching something, like it has to be completely silent as the name suggests. I didn't feel comfortable just scrolling on my phone or looking at a YouTube video or watching something on Netflix. So I basically was forced to study, which who would have thought that a study session should be only about studying. So I actually managed to be quite productive, which I'm happy about, but I'm not happy about the circumstances that led to this. And also another thing that really pissed me off is that when I went to this hotel reception to study, I had brought food with myself because I was planning on staying a prolonged period of time. And like, when someone tells you we have food at home, trust them, because you do have food at home, because eating out is so incredibly expensive nowadays. And I forgot my lunchbox there. And the thing is, this is going to sound so petty and so not important, but that lunchbox was my favorite one. It was a gift from my aunt because my aunt lives in Germany, and I went to visit her during my first year of university here. I went first to visit a friend in Düsseldorf, and then I went to visit where my aunt lives, and it was basically like a 2-day bender, spending 12 hours on trains every single day at least. And it was just like a very fond memory. And I just remember she made me this really nice pastry that she sent me in that lunchbox, and I've been using that lunchbox every single day for the past 4 years, and it's a metal one. And do you know how hard it is to find a proper metal lunchbox? Because most lunchboxes are either glass, which I don't want because I know myself, and I know I'm going to break it, or it's going to break in my pack and it's going to leak everywhere, or it's plastic, which if you put something with sauce in it, it is going to be stained until eternity. And also, like, plastic is not necessarily great for you to store your food in, but I'm not judging because I do it all the time, because like it's very convenient and it's the cheaper option. But also because I could put in the metal one things while they were still hot, which is not what you're supposed to do when things are plastic. And I really missed that box, and I called reception multiple times. I even went to the hotel and they could not find it. And I think my lunchbox is making someone very, very happy. And I hope you enjoy that lunchbox, because it's a really nice lunchbox. And if I ever stumble upon her, I'm taking her back. No excuses. But yeah, rest in peace, my guy. You will be missed. Anyway, so I never actually mentioned why I don't have internet. So initially, we thought it's my landlord's scheduling so a router was supposed to come here because our network was so incredibly slow, and we're 5 people in that house. Obviously the network gets overloaded sometimes and overwhelmed, and it's just very not nice. But turns out my landlords had not re-signed their contract since I don't know how many years, and they were still running on very low capacity when it comes to the data available from that router. And they were supposed to bring a new router, and they were supposed to bring a new router 2 weeks ago, but they never did. And we thought that it's just them cutting off our router, the current one, so that they could install the new one. And the thing is, that happened at 5 p.m. on a Friday, meaning that no customer service could be contacted for the weekend. So we were stuck not having any internet. And then when a technician came the Monday after, they were like, oh, this is not because you're switching to a faster network, which you're supposed to be doing. This is because your neighbors who have been doing reconstruction cut your cables. And that is just so incredibly, I don't know, hard feeling and just like mind-blowingly annoying. Because apparently, first of all, the technician also said that never in the house that I've lived has an optic cable been installed. And do you remember a few years ago, was it last year or was it 2 years ago? I don't remember, when the world was switching to 5G and everybody was freaking out because they were like, oh, it's going to be cancerous, and it's actually like the aliens are going to reach out to us, and it's like radioactive, so turn off your internet, wear your tinfoil caps, and blah, 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 blah. My house never switched to that network type situation, and we were stuck with a slower type of internet, and we were stuck with cabled routers that are no longer supported by the company, which is my internet provider. So the cables are cut, and we talked to the neighbor. The thing is, I thought it was my downstairs neighbor. It's not, it's my downstairs neighbor, like on one floor down, not two floors down. Because the ones that were down were the ones I was complaining about last year. The ones who actually cut off my gas without even warning us in advance that they're going to do this, and left us without gas, which we need for heating, which we need for hot water, and which we need for cooking. And we didn't have gas for more than 24 hours, which was very fun, because why would you even warn the people that you're going to do this? With neighbors like mine, do you actually need enemies? I don't think so. And I've always thought that I would be an apartment girly. Guys, I am now very much dedicated to the dream to have my own house so that I don't have any neighbors. Because sure, neighborhood and community in your neighborhood can be very nice and whatever. But this is just some typical downstairs neighbor shit that is just so incredibly infuriating, and it's making my life a complete inconvenience. And I will never forget the multitude of times when back at home where I used to live, our downstairs neighbors would just directly pour the cooking oil that they used in their pipes, and this would clog their pipes. So, and I was, first floor, they were ground floor. And the thing is, all the water that was going from the 4 floors up, my floor included, downstairs, not downstairs, but like down into the ground to go through the pipes, would just not be able to go down because the pipes on their level were clogged because of the oil. And what ended up happening is they flooded our apartment, which was very, very fun. And this happened many a times, and it was really not fun. Let me just say this, let me just put it lightly and say not fun. And now the thing is, they are going to have to install an optic cable. I know that this is probably such a boring conversation for some of you, but it's okay, because I really need to rant to someone about those everyday stuff, because otherwise I'm going to go crazy. Because I keep losing my mind, and just like the way I lose my lunch boxes, and it's really not nice. Yeah, so they will have to install an optic cable, but they will also have to change all the cables that are connected to the router, because we still need cables for the router. I thought that we wouldn't, because 21st century 2025, you would be able to have wireless internet, but I guess not. And they basically need to drill all the walls through which cables connected to the router are going, which is quite a few walls. And the thing is, they are not really they are not really aware of when that is going to start taking place, because the process itself, they said, could take up to 2 weeks because they're busy. And they also need to come here to where I live, because like I mentioned, I don't live, I have 2 layers of downstairs neighbors, so I'm quite up high. They need to bring one of those metal constructions that construction workers walk on in order to get at a construction site. So that is very fun and very exciting. And I'm just really worried that now with the weather getting shit and it raining every single day, they're going to keep delaying because they will be like, oh, because of the weather we cannot work now. And the thing is, a few days ago, so I was stuck internetless for quite a few days, and I know this is such a 21st century type of problem, and I know it's such a first world type of problem, I get it, but it was just very frustrating, because I actually had to, I could not be in my house if I wanted to study or access any information, which was crucial for me in the middle of exam period. If one would not be shocked by that type of information. And I forgot my train of thought. See, I told you I'm losing my mind. Yeah, and they basically a few days ago sent us this emergency packet, which is basically a little 5 centimeter wide router, which is not charged up, which is like preloaded with a set amount of data, which, trust me, is not a sufficient amount for 5 people, one of whom works from home and the other 4 are in university and need constant access to internet to access their lectures, access their materials, and so on and so forth, and thereafter also entertainment purposes, because we have 100 gigabytes for 5 people, and it's just not been really, really great, because it's not like 100 gigabytes can be sufficient for certain purposes. They told us do not stream on that Wi-Fi, do not use it for anything else but the mere necessities that are, accessing your reading, downloading it, and then stop it again immediately, which is very not nice. And it's such an unreliable network. And now, for example, for the past hour and a half, I have not been able to access that Wi-Fi network, and I have had to use my data. And the thing is, it's not a problem for me to use my data, but it is actually going to be a problem for me to use my data, because despite me living in the Netherlands for 4 years, I still use my Bulgarian number because it's the European Union, it is a possibility, and my contract back home allows me to use my data and my like minutes, which I could use to call people in like European Union wide. But the thing is, today I received a message that because I am using my data way more in roaming, quote unquote, rather than inside Bulgaria, I will be charged in 2 weeks. I will get started, like they'll start charging me for like roaming rates, which is not nice. So now I have to figure out also to get like a Dutch number, which I've done before, but they're not really super duper affordable because data here is very expensive. I'm not saying that in Bulgaria it's not, but did you guys know that Bulgaria is one of the countries with the best internet network? And well, I mean, Europe wide, I don't know if globally. And it's one that has the fastest internet connection in Europe, which maybe this is why I'm so spoiled when it comes to internet, simply because my country has it. Also totally unrelated, but somewhat related. Let me also tell you what Bulgaria has, because like all of my friends are studying medicine, but one who's studying to be a lawyer, and other 2 who are studying to be policemen. So like, guys, I am set for life. Networking with like very solid people, and here I am being like marketing management and media studies, Bachelor of Arts, yay. But yeah, and my friends who study medicine have gone to different conferences and stuff, and they've explained to me that Bulgaria is one of the countries, again, Europe-wide, which has some of the best access when it comes to medicine. And sure, is medicine expensive? It is, very much is. But is medicine available and foundable in stores? Findable, I would assume. Yes, which is nice. Now, it's not nice that like the majority of population cannot afford the life-saving treatments, but it's a nice thing that there is still treatment available. For certain procedures, for example, people have to travel abroad, but when it comes to medicine, like pills themselves, the Bulgarian market is quite wide and rich when it comes to those, which is really nice. But I think that might also be due to our negative population growth rate, and the fact that our population is growing old a lot. What else? Oh yeah, so that's just like a complete inconvenience, and I've had to take my laptop to work so that I can download my stuff for university, and I've also been not this is again such a first world problem, but I've had to basically go to, let's say, that hotel reception or to work or to that community center to download stuff on my phone, like stuff from Netflix, so that I can watch it when I get home. Because and it's interesting that Netflix only allows you to download stuff on your phone, not on your laptop, which I remember was a possibility before too, but not anymore. And I just preloaded on some series and movies. And guys, I watched Five Nights at Freddy's, and I thought it was going to be a horror movie, and I guess in a way it is. Maybe it's just because I watched it on a smaller screen and I was looking away at when, the suspension was getting high and I expected a jump scare, but it wasn't necessarily as scary as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't necessarily scary, I would say, which I'm not complaining about, because I told you recently during my Halloween episode that I'm just not good with horror movies, which is an interesting choice that I decided to, out of all movies, download a horror movie. But yeah, it was interesting. I'm see that I'm not familiar with the game itself, the Five Nights at Freddy's, because I know it's based on a video game. So I don't know if it's necessarily a good um adaptation, but the movie was somewhat interesting. Like, I don't know if I would watch the second part, but it was alright. And the other thing I'm watching right now is Stranger Things, because the new season is coming out. Well, by the time you listen to this, it will be next week, I believe, or the week after that. So, on the 27th of November. And basically, I have not watched Stranger Things since the last season came out, which was quite a few years back, I believe. And I am just now rewatching it so that I can freshly have access to all the information I need. Could I also watch recaps or just like Google what happened? Yes, I could. But also, it's a great series. Stranger Things is one of the things, like, it's such a bingeable show. And I'm super excited for the next season. And what I will say is, when the show was at its peak popularity, when the first two seasons came out, I wasn't actually watching it. I had never seen it because back then I was in my toxic, I'm so different and quirky era, that I was depriving myself of watching stuff that were considered either a classic, watching or reading. And also, I was like, everybody's watching Stranger Things, so I'm just going to be different and not watch it. And then when I watched it, I was like, wow, I've deprived myself of great TV, which was a bit disheartening, but I figured it out somewhat on time, because I I've mentioned this before, I hardly ever watch series as they're airing. I mainly start watching something after it has finished, and then I just binge it. And the rate at which I'm consuming those Stranger Things episodes is a little bit concerning, and I'm not excited to see my average screen time for next week when it comes out tomorrow, because, like I mentioned, I've had to watch it on my phone. So that has, like, just really exacerbated the amount of hours I spend on my phone, or at least this is what I tell myself, so that I just don't feel bad for doom scrolling for 2 hours at least. But also to make myself feel better for binging, because binging, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's also not necessarily a great thing. I remember one of the first essays I wrote in university was about what it means like what binging does to a person and how it was developed, and how Netflix is basically responsible for the binging culture. And I know I've reflected about this before, and I'll mention it again. I think one of the smartest things Netflix has done in recent years is split its most awaited series, like for example now Stranger Things or some other series, in parts. So the seasons themselves are, let's say a season has 10 episodes and they release them in parts, part 1, part 2, or maybe even up to 3 parts, the way it's going to be with Stranger Things. They release the first part and on a particular date, and then they release the second part of episodes, let's say a month after that or a few weeks after that, because this is what because they know people will be binging. And if you binge all 10 episodes in one go, you will be satiated and the conversation will die down much quicker. But if you prolong the release period, you will keep the conversation going, because after the first part airs, people are going to binge watch it, but they will be keeping themselves excited for the second part, which is coming in a month. So you're basically prolonging the conversation surrounding your materials, surrounding your TV series, for example. And this is what's keeping the momentum going and generating them attraction and generating them attention, and hence, consequently, money. Which for me, this is one of the greatest, most genius decisions Netflix has taken in a long time, because it's still binge worthy, but it's in sizable chunks. And I know that this is actually nothing revolutionary. We're just reverting back to a single episode per week, the way it was back before streaming platforms, when series were just aired on TV and they would air 1 episode per week or 2 episodes per week on a specific day, and if you missed it, you would have to watch reruns if those were available. So in a way, we are reverting back to our own ways of consumption, but we are modernizing them by including this addiction factor, which binge watching basically is. So yeah, that all to say that I'm super excited for Stranger Things. And can I just say that if they kill Steve Harrington, my man, I will be so incredibly distraught and so incredibly pissed, to a point that I would probably never rewatch the show. But to make myself feel a little bit better and a little bit more productive while I'm binging, I have also been crocheting while I watch, so that I don't feel like a complete piece of shit, so that I don't feel like I'm wasting my life in front of a little screen that's dictating my mood and that's dictating my heart rate. Because honestly, Stranger Things is at times way more scary than Five Nights at Freddy's was overall. Because yesterday when I was watching season 2 and I was watching it in the evening, with my light off, I was like, wait, I really need like some nice recipes YouTube video to watch right now, or like, I don't know, some nice Mia Maples video, so that I can sleep peacefully. Because that shit, like the CGI on that show is so incredibly good, and so just wow, they really somehow make you so invested into that world that you feel so closely connected to the characters and the plot line, which is everything you would want from a TV production. And I'm excited. I am really, really excited. I'm excited to see how it concludes. And I'm excited for Netflix to finally finish a TV series without canceling it prematurely, and actually give closure to characters, because it's super frustrating when they just cancel a show midway through its run when things are starting to get interesting. And that's on that. Another thing that I quickly need to complain about, and I promise it will be quick, is the fact that I kind of severely burned myself when I was cooking the other day, because I was making, and like all the Italians consider this a trigger warning, and I apologize to all the nonnas out there. I know that maybe some nonna is like turning in her grave right now and is just like being disturbed in heaven, but I made lasagna soup, which when I told my Italian housemaid, and she was like, "You are making what?" Because I understand how that can be disgraceful to the whole pasta world, considering how prominent and important pasta is for Italians. I can understand how, but you know what? I blame TikTok. Well, not only TikTok, I blame social media, because social media, I don't know if that's just me or if it's like a proven thing, but I genuinely feel like social media took pasta to a whole new level. Because, okay, sure, I didn't grow up in a family which ate pasta a lot. If we ate bolognese, it was once a year tops, if not less than that. And another thing that has sent my Italian housemates, because I've only lived with Italians in every single place I've lived in every single housemate setup I've lived in, there's always been at least one Italian. When I tell them that a very prominent, popular, and just hearty Sunday morning breakfast in Bulgaria constitutes of pasta, it in my family it was always the shell type of pasta, shell form, which is boiled on the stove, obviously, then just mixed with a big chunk of butter, drenched in sugar, like covered in sugar like it's snowing, and with crumbled fat on top. Oh my god, that's so good. That for me is childhood. I love that breakfast so, so much. And every single Italian I've told this to, they've been like, okay, which I understand. I really understand. But that's just the Bulgarian spin. And if there is leftover pasta, my mom would always mix it with milk and just make some custard on top of it and put it in the oven and basically make this pasta bake, but that was also so sweet, and it was just stunning. Stunning. Just like my mouth is watering right now just thinking about this. But social media genuinely, in my opinion, took pasta to another level. I dare you to look up an ingredient, any ingredient, and look it up. Let's say you look up chicken recipes, or I don't know, some vegetable, broccoli recipes. There will be at least a few pasta recipes, which is fine. Pasta is a very versatile type of food. It is, for some, maybe it would be the ultimate food. For me, when it comes to ultimate food, like if I have to consider, like on a global scale, humanity, what is the ultimate food, the OG of food, that's bread, and the OG of liquids, that's water. And in a way, you could make the argument that pasta is bread. It's just, it's dough in a different shape, cut differently. Maybe that's super disrespectful what I'm saying right now, and I'm so sorry. Please don't cancel me. I love pasta and I love bread. So Italians, please don't. But yeah, it's just every single thing is with pasta nowadays, which is fine. Pasta is cheap, pasta is versatile. But my guy, I never thought I would say this, because when I moved here, I was so excited to eat pasta because, like I mentioned, I didn't grow up eating pasta a lot. So I was excited, to try and experiment. Like, that was the time of like Gigi Hadid's viral vodka pasta, penne alla vodka. I was excited to try out all those recipes. But eating pasta 2 times a week is like too much for me, bro. I don't know if it's because I grew up not eating pasta, but for me, like, it does get tiring a little bit. And I'm just like, I don't know, like, it's gotten to the point that now when I look for recipes, I legitimately in the keyword section just write no pasta. or no rice, because those are the two main ingredients when you look for one pot recipes or when you look for easy dinner recipes on the budget for students who are running on a dream and a hope for, I don't know, not leaking boiler. So yeah, but what I was about to say is that maybe it's because I disrespected the tradition of lasagna so much, but I was making lasagna soup, and bro, that shit slaps so hard. If you have not tried it, please, for the love of God, try it. Lasagna is my favorite. Well, I don't know if my favorite, but definitely on the podium when it comes to pasta for me. And I love lasagna bolognese, and just making it a soup for me, it feels easier. It's definitely not quicker because the sheets still need like solid 30 to 40 minutes to cook on the stove. But bro, it's so incredibly good, and I highly, highly recommend it. But the thing is, please be careful, because when I was making it this time around, it was definitely an ordeal. Because the thing is, so here, like I mentioned earlier when I was explaining about my neighbors cutting off my gas, here we have gas stoves. So I'm really like, it took some getting used to for me to learn how to cook on gas stoves, because I've grown up with electric stoves, and I cannot tell you how many shit I burned in the beginning, because gas stoves heat up way quicker and are way more powerful than electric stoves. And I've legitimately burned so many utensils, like wooden utensils have caught on fire, and so has my dad's sweater that is more than 30 years old, and I stole from him so that I can wear it, and then I just burned it on the stove, because this was never something I had to worry about when it came to an electric stove, because I just had to worry about me not touching the stove rather than the stove literally being an open fire. But yeah, so basically, what I've noticed is that when I cook, I know that this episode for some of you is such an everyday topic, a situation that is like so not podcast worthy, but it's okay. It's my show, it's my podcast. I can talk whatever I want to talk about. So basically, it is very difficult to first figure out how to navigate a gas stove, and they're way more powerful, which means that stuff, when it boils, it boils. Like, trust me, like it boils, and it splashes. And it's when, even if something starts boiling, if you put it on lower heat, it's still like super hot, so it doesn't immediately simmer down. No pun intended. And basically, as I was stirring the lasagna soup, this is probably some nonna punishing me from the afterlife for what I've done to her culture. But it splashed on me, and that's the main reason I don't fry stuff, because I'm terrified of stuff splashing on me. But it splashed on me, it splashed on my hand in two places. Blisters, immediate blisters. I was in so much pain, and now it's so red, and I'm trying to keep it moisturized at all times, because I genuinely don't want to have a reminder. Like, I don't want a scar, I don't want a reminder of this lasagna soup. Like, was it bomb? It was bomb. Do I need it on my skin tattooed forever? No. So I'm really, really hoping it just oh, should I use niacinamide? Because niacinamide is used for lightening the skin in a little bit. Well, this is what it's also used for blemishes and like evening out your skin tone. But like, it's an open wound. Maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, I will not. Guys, don't ever take medical advice from me. Never, ever, ever, ever. But we don't stop there. So it burns me there, and I'm like in so much pain, and I'm running it under cold water. And then, I finish cooking, and as I go to take my first bite, I don't realize how hot it actually is, because I'm one of those people that doesn't realize that when I take stuff out of the oven, it's taken in like directly out of the oven, so it's basically as hot as the surface of the sun. And I take the first bite, and it burns my lip, like immediate blister. And it also burns my tongue. And if you think we're stopping there, we're not. So, because I was like, oh, I'll let it simmer and I'll just go take a quick shower while it gets cooking. So some of it had, stuck to the bottom of the pot and it had burned to a point of it being cold. So what you normally do, what you can normally do in situations like these, if you're me, is like you empty the pot, you fill it with water, and you put it back on the stove for it to boil for, let's say, 20 minutes. And in the boiling process, the coal structures on the bottom weaken, become softer, and are much more easier to clean. So I do that, and I have my dinner. I'm barely like surviving because my tongue is burnt. My upper mouth is burnt, and like it was really not good. Like it was peeling, and my lip is burned, and it's like an open wound. It's not bleeding, but it's like, very, very delicate. And then I let my pots boil on the stove for 20 minutes, and then I go to clean it. And first, I pour all the boiling hot water out and I fill it with cold water so that I can actually touch the pot. The thing is, I did not realize that the cold water is going to cool down the body of the pot, but it did not cool down the handles. And the thing is, and this, I honestly don't blame it on me. I blame it on whoever designed this fucking stupid pot, because the pots we have at home, sure, they're not student pots. They're actually like good quality pot that is not going to poison you from you eating from it. But the pots have those either plastic or wooden endings on their handles so that it's easier for you to grab and you don't actually burn yourself. Because for me, the stupidest way to design a pot is to have metal handles, because obviously those are going to get very, very hot. And because they're like attached to the pot but semi detached, like they're not going to be immediately affected by the cold water I'm pouring in the pot, I go to grab the pot by the handles to lift it, and I burn my finger, but like burn it. Like it was so red and it was pulsating for the entire night that it kept me up. Because, like, mind you, at this time, my other hand, it is burned from the first burn. Then my upper lip and my tongue and my upper mouth are burned from when I ate. And then my finger on my other hand is burning from when I was trying to clean the pot. So this is basically I know I told you, try the lasagna soup. Try it if you're not the one cooking it, because this is a sign that lasagna soup should never be cooked again in the universe, or at least not by me, because that shit legit was so incredibly painful. And now basically my lip is so incredibly stiff and it's peeling, and it's like a wound that is, trying to heal. My tongue was sensitive for days. My hand, like I had blisters for a few days that just popped, and now I'm just trying to save them from scars, because there are some scars that I like. I like the scar my dog gave me when she jumped to hug me and she just scratched my leg. For me, that's a reminder of a nice memory. Did it hurt like a bitch? Yes, it did. But is it a nice memory from my senior dog? Yes, it is. But this is not a memory I want to have. And my finger itself, bro, crazy, crazy. So please, for the love of God, be careful. Be careful with that type of shit. Have adults around you. Like don't experiment with such stuff. But you know what's the problem? I am the adult in the house. Like, it is me who's now an adult. I'm considered an adult. I should know better. Yeah. Speaking of adulthood, yeah, that's it, whatever. I want to tell you about this book that I read. So it is called The Upside of Unrequited, and it's a teen romance novel. And the thing is, first of all, just a reflection on how me improving my life has been going on. So I used to think that I had to carve out a prolonged time of the day per day, like for a multitude of days consecutively, to read books. I Which is so stupid, and it's so obvious that it's not true, but this is the way I assume things were. And now, when I don't need to carve out an entire day just to read, but actually dedicate 10 minutes per evening, I actually have been reading more because I don't need to wait for summer vacation to read or winter vacation. I actually get the chance to read every single day, which is very exciting, but I fear it's not going to be something that lasts long, at least not in this next blog, because when I downloaded all my readings that I have to do for next week, it's like 150 pages. And this goes for 7 consecutive weeks. 150 is the minimum. And oh my God, please help me because I don't know if I can help myself. But yeah, now I've actually been reading more and I've been managing to read at least a book and a half per month, which I know that is not really a lot, but it's more than I managed before, which is making me super happy because I love reading books. I just love reading. I really, really do. So I feel really happy about it because I used to read quite a few books per year. But now, since I started university, because I barely had time to read anything outside of academic literature, or at least this is what I thought, I barely got through 10 books per year, which pains me and pained me deeply. But just in the last month, I've read 2 books, which makes me happy, and I'm excited to be reading more. The next one, I see the thing is, I'm someone who buys books all the time. Every single time I go to a secondhand store, like, guys, a way to buy cheap books is go to a secondhand store and look what they've got there. But a lot of the secondhand stores here don't have English books or have them in a very limited section and are books that are not of interest to me. So it is what it is. Okay, I'm not gatekeeping. We know I don't like gatekeeping. Where I get some of my books, where they have somewhat of a better selection, but like still it's not like you can go out and like search per genre or per author, but they're somewhat affordable. TK Maxx. TK Maxx for the win, bro. I swear to God. Like, I from there went and I bought The Godfather for €5. Legit, like, I'm so happy about this because books here are quite expensive, and this is what's making me really miss the UK because in the UK it's books are genuinely so affordable. I remember I would go to a bookstore and a book would be £3. And my guy, like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, that's so affordable, and that makes well, I mean, like, affordable is subjective. I recognize this, but compared to, let's say, €20, £3 is on the way more affordable side, which makes reading way more attainable, which is nice. But what I wanted to say about this book, Unrequited, The Upside of Unrequited, or something like this, it wasn't a bad book, but what I'm starting to realize recently is the fact that I am no longer that fond of teenage romance novels, it seems. Because in my head, when I read them and the character is like, oh, and I am 17 or I am 16, and I'm like, ugh, boss, you're a child. I should not have access to your inner monologue. And I don't know, it just feels, it doesn't, well, weird is a way of putting it, but it's just, they're maybe not as appealing to me anymore. Because the way, for example, teenage romance novels are written is different from other non-fiction or like fiction books. Well, definitely from non-fiction. So I am now trying to figure out how to navigate this genre preference change. And it honestly, when I first started coming to terms with the truth that teenage romance novels are no longer making me kick my feet and like giggle in my bed the way they used to, I was quite sad because I this was my favorite genre. I loved reading that type of books, and it genuinely made me feel like it made me feel something, period. Um but now I am trying to look at this as not something disheartening because they did bring me a lot of joy. And I'm trying to look at it from the perspective of it is okay for my preferences to change. It is okay for my needs to change when it comes to art, literature, emotional content, or any sort of mental engagement. And it's okay. It is sad to let teen romance novels go. I mean, I'm not going to fully stop reading them, but I feel like now it's just I'm growing up and I'm trying to look at this as something that's okay. And I'm trying to look at this as something that is inevitable and as something that is a privilege that I get the chance to grow up because not everybody gets the chance to grow up. And I'm not trying, like, in me letting go of what once brought me pleasure, what once was a hobby of mine that no longer serves me. I'm trying to let go of the stuff that no longer serve me or of the stuff that no longer fit my perceptions. Because what I catch myself doing now when I'm reading a teen romance novel is because, the characters are teenagers, so they're still trying to navigate their youngster lives. This is such a weird way to say this. But they're trying to navigate life and they're trying to like go on some growth journey, some self-development journey. And what I'm catching myself do is like if I'm reading something and I'm just like talking to the character in a way, I'm like, this was so easily avoidable, all this drama that you put yourself through simply through communication. Only if you had communicated in what would have literally taken 5 rows, that entire 70-page drama could have been avoided. Which, I mean, it is the drama, that like the plot twist that keeps the plot going. But I'm just thinking, maybe it's not something that serves me anymore. And maybe that's okay. Sure, it's sad to see them go, but it just means that I have changed and I have grown. And while that's scary, I'm trying to look at it from a privileged perspective. Because I remember when I was a teenager, when I would go to the library, the local library in my hometown, and I would look for what books to borrow from there, I would always go to the romance section, and I would turn back the book to just see what it's going on about. And I remember if they would say a character was over 20, 21, 23, or God forbid, within big air quotation marks, 30 or older, I was like, bro, like, this is not interesting to me. Those people are old, which is just a crazy thing to say. But I was a teenager. I didn't know better. And now, when I am 23, when I read the story of, a fictional 16-year-old, I'm like, bro, I've read this already 1,000 times, and like, I've been through similar situations. I have developed my own toolkit of navigating them and learning and growing from them. And while it was something that really interested me, now I'm interested more in like reading the stories about those 23-year-olds, 25, 30-year-olds, because those are the things that are awaiting me. And like, I'm not trying to say that reading those stories back is like me going back in time and like trying to avoid being an adult, but it's just they don't serve me anymore. And it's okay when you grow up, as time goes by, as you develop, as you learn more stuff about life, about the world, about yourself, it is okay for you to change. It is okay for your preferences to change, for your needs to change, for your behavior to change. Us humans are not set in stone, engraved, unchangeable scripture. We are a story that's being written as we go. And here I'm not referring to like whether something is faith or not and whether something's written in the stars for you. It's just like, a metaphor. It's okay for you to change. It's scary because all you've ever known is all you've ever known. And it's difficult as you navigate this transition to your new interests, to your new needs, to your new desires and requirements when it comes to people, when it comes to art, when it comes to yourself. It is scary for those things to change. But I think it's also in a way very beautiful because that means that we're developing. And as long as we're developing, as long as we keep going, everything's okay. Because if, let's say, all my perceptions and all my views, values, and approaches to life and in life remain the same, like they were formed when I was, let's say, when I started reading teen romance novels, let's say in my teenage years, if they formed there and they were fixed forever and always, that would be so mundane. And also, that would mean that I would be extremely depressed. And it's okay. Change is inevitable. Change does not ask you if it's okay for it to happen. Change just happens. And it is up to us to develop a toolkit, an emotional toolkit to deal with it, accommodate it, and not fear it. Because change is very daunting. Because it's an unexplored territory, it's an uncharted territory, and it's outside of your comfort zone. But change is so incredibly necessary because we live in a dynamic world and we are dynamic beings. And the biggest punishment you can give to a dynamic being like humans, like their souls, like their minds, is being stationary. So I think despite me no longer being fond of teenage romance novels, as it seems at this point of my life, that doesn't mean that they didn't serve me back then. That doesn't mean that they didn't bring me comfort, entertainment. That doesn't mean that I didn't find them groundbreaking back then and as basically the source of all emotional knowledge and all emotional development. They serve their purpose. They are a big stepping stone in my literary experiences and literary preferences. And I will always and forever love rom-coms or romance books and novels, love stories and whatnot. But I feel like it's okay for me as a grown adult to just let go of the teenager stories. And that is scary. That is the closure of a chapter, no pun intended. But that also is exciting because that means that now I am in pursuit of the next thing that excites me. And that is scary because that means figuring out what is it that I like. And that also takes figuring out what is it that I don't like anymore. And maybe what I don't like anymore is what I used to love back then. People change, people grow, and that's okay. And I feel like we should not deprive ourselves the privilege of growth and change if we're privileged enough to get the chance to grow and change and age. So yeah, maybe The Fault in Our Stars is no longer my favorite book. Maybe it was the book I used to read every single year, at least once a year, and I was like, oh, this is what literature is all about. That doesn't diminish the importance of the story, and that does not diminish the importance of the genre. It's just something that maybe in my current stage of life is taking up space that I should free up for new and exciting stuff that will help me acquire new interests, satisfy new needs that I didn't know I had, that I didn't know I've been developing, and just learn more stuff about myself. And maybe, who knows, maybe I will go and reread The Fault in Our Stars for the 10th time, or maybe it will just be collecting dust over there. But that does not diminish its importance in my life and what it meant back then. And it's okay for things to have a different meaning to us at different stages in our life. Because what used to be important yesterday may not matter at all tomorrow or today. And this goes for a lot more stuff than just books or art in general. And it's okay. We humans are a collection, we are a collage of all our experiences here on Earth. We are a product of our environment, we build ourselves, of our environment that was imposed on us. And it is okay for this ecosystem to adjust and adapt to changing circumstances, and those circumstances being aging, growing up, and having different priorities. It is okay. That does not mean, for a frog to become a frog, and I'm not trying to, compare us to frogs fully, but this is what I'm going to do. For a frog to become a frog, it needs to be a polywog. And that transformation led it to its grown-up stage, and it led it to what and who it was meant to be. So maybe think about this. What is something that you're doing nowadays, that is you're consuming, that you're devoting time to, energy to, without it serving you anymore? Be it a person, a hobby, a literary genre, a music genre, anything. It is okay to let things go. Not everything is meant to last forever, and some things have served their purpose, and dragging them longer than they should be in our environment and life is just self-punishment. So that's on that. Anyways, I really think this is a great stopping point while we have this high of emotional development going, because I really need to go to bed, because they decided to make course enrollment start at 7 a.m. and it's a very competitive course that I really need to get a spot in a very specific time slot, because it's separated in different groups. And for me, it's just extremely stupid that you will make enrollment start at 7 a.m. because now that means I have to wake up to, set up my hotspot, because like I mentioned, internet problems. And it's just stupid to me that you would have it that early in the morning, because come on, always fighting for a spot, for enrollment, for a course always gets my adrenaline rushing and like blood pressure going, because like it's always such a battlefield. And don't even get me started on like such early beginnings, for example for exams, because last week during my statistics exam was at 8:30, and as someone who lives an hour away from campus, I had to wake up at 6:30 because you have to be there earlier, which for me is rather inconsiderate because I still live in the city, but there's a lot of my classmates who commute from different cities that are 2.5 hours away by train. And that means that they basically have to stay overnight here at a hotel so that they can take the exam. And for me, that is legit stupid. So I don't know, make it at 9:30 or 10, because sure, it's nice to not have to worry about the exam the entire day and then take the exam. Like I don't want to take an exam at 3 or 4 p.m. where last year I had an exam at 6 p.m. until 8. That's also not ideal, but like, come on, my guy. Like, do you really want me to do statistics at 8:30 in the morning? How do you think I'm going to perform? I'm half asleep. Like, I'm not dolphin. I cannot, like, even if my half brain is awake, it's not going to function as properly. Like, it's not going to secure my survival on this exam. But anyways, wish me good luck with enrollment. We are hoping for this particular time slot because I want to minimize my days on campus so that I can be able to work. And that's on being a hyper independent woman doing her full time master's. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye.